Good Monday afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us. Hope you had a great weekend. We have plenty of Browns to talk about. Pretty much a jam-packed show with Browns news. And let's get right down to it. Some good news out in Berea. Denzel Ward extended that 5-year extension everybody was waiting for. It has happened. Denzel Ward and the Browns have reportedly agreed to a 5-year, $100.5 million contract that will make him the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. Average value $20.1 million, just ahead of Jalen Ramsey. Of the deal, $71.25 is guaranteed. $71.25 million guaranteed. And the Browns picked up his 5th-year option at $13.29. So Denzel Ward under contract for 6 more years through the 2027 season. With that, let's welcome in G. Bush. He's the host of the Barbershop 92.3 The Fan, Saturdays from 8 until noon. G. Bush, they're locking up people that they want to build the franchise around, and that is a good thing for the Browns and Jimmy Haslam.
You know, you say what you want about the Haslams, but, you can't forget what they've been doing, and you can't diminish and marginalize what they've been able to do in terms of getting guys that they've drafted, signing guys that they've drafted, and opening up that checkbook. Right now, Denzel Ward just secured the biggest payday for any defensive back of any generation of all time. So this is a great day for him and his family. He had a great year last year. And for what all you people say about the Haslams, they've been opening up that checkbook. They've been putting guys in positions to make long-term deals, signing guys to make the team better. And we talked about it. We're like, hey, how many people are going to go out there and pay the level of money that they're paying? Deshaun Watson, $230 million. You got Myles Garrett already on the books, $125 million. At the time when he signed his deal, the highest paid defensive end at the time, and now you got the highest paid cornerback in Denzel Ward. You drafted those guys, and I let people know. I told you when this was happening, when the Browns tore it down to the studs, they had a lot of draft picks, they had a lot of first-round picks, and look at the guys that are making these bags of money. Denzel Ward was a 4th overall pick. You knew if you hit on him, you were going to bring him back for a lot of money, especially playing a position of corner. Myles Garrett, number 1 overall pick. You brought him, you got him here. He turned out to be a franchise-changing player, and you gave him his money. So anytime you're going to draft these people in the top 5, top 10, and they pan out to be superstars, your job is to get them to the next contract, collect those, those players, make sure that those guys stay in your program, and I think it's paying dividends for the Cleveland Browns, and you'll see it on the field this year.
Yeah, and the other thing is, don't question the Haslams. They've always wanted to win. Maybe a little too impatient sometimes, but they're putting the dollars where they need to be. This one's very interesting. This is from Bill Barnwell, and I'm referencing this to getting Deshaun Watson from the Texans. So Denzel Ward was a pick that they acquired from the Texans when they traded Deshaun Watson and got the first-round pick the following year. Nick Chubb was a pick that they got from the Texans in the Brock Osweiler contract. So can Andrew Berry make it the triple play and get his franchise corner, his franchise defensive running back rather, and his franchise quarterback, all from the Houston Texans with 3 picks? G. Bush, it looks like the Texans, that's a good way for the Browns to be dealing right now, huh?
Cleveland Texans, I like it. The Cleveland Texans are a really good ball club. And by the way, man, can you imagine? The Browns, I'm not going to say they fleeced them. Obviously, Deshaun Watson forced his way out. Nick Chubb was a steal and a find in the 2nd round, arguably one of the top 3 running backs in the game. And now you get Denzel Ward, which you sign, you lock up it long term. So the Browns have done a good job of finding talent and then allocating those resources to bringing that talent back. Right now, to be truthful, a lot of teams would love to hit on all 3 of those picks: quarterback, defensive back, running back. franchise pillars that the Cleveland Browns have. And it just goes to show you all those, postseason and regular preseason stuff about whether the Cleveland Browns are going to be successful or how good they're going to be. Every time I come on here, I keep just sitting here rattling these names off. And every player we name is in the top 3 in their position. So I'll take the Cleveland Browns roster. I love what Andrew Berry is doing. And shout out to the Houston Texans. You guys are going to have a bunch of picks, try to transform your organization. You guys will be able to be, get those picks. It'll be yet to be seen whether or not they'll hit on all of them. But they have the assets. They have the cap space. They have all of the raw materials to make themselves a championship caliber team. They just got to hit a quarterback and kind of fill in the roster from there. But the time now is for the Cleveland Browns, and I'm glad that Barry and Haslam's have gone out and made themselves a team that is being reckoned with as Super Bowl contenders.
So the other news is about Baker Mayfield. So over the weekend, one of the destinations that now could be the front runner if Baker Mayfield is to be traded before the draft could be the Carolina Panthers. And one of their wide receivers, Robbie Anderson, responds to the news on Panther Way with no. Now, Robbie Anderson has been top 20 in drops in the NFL the last couple of years, but he is not a fan of the Panthers acquiring Baker Mayfield. It's important to note he's played with Sam Darnold, the Panthers quarterback, and he played with him at the New York Jets as well. Here is Dominique Foxworth talking about Robbie Anderson not wanting Baker Mayfield to come to the Panthers.
So I would say it doesn't feel to me like Seattle is going to happen as of now. We'll see. Maybe they don't come away with a quarterback in the draft. Maybe if Baker Mayfield doesn't get traded by next like Tuesday, Wednesday, he could get traded Friday if a team who wanted one doesn't come away with one. So that'll be something to watch maybe like the day after the draft. So we'll kind of put a pin in that and wait for that one. The Carolina one is interesting to me because if he is going to get traded before the draft, Carolina is the most likely option. If Carolina doesn't do it, then I think he just waits. So for Carolina, what they're doing right now is they're evaluating all the quarterbacks. They got Sam Howell in today, and they'll make a decision. Would I rather trade for Baker Mayfield and some of his big salary, or would I rather take Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett or someone at number 6? And if Mayfield isn't traded by then, like it could be a minute. Like he could also show up at training camp with the Browns, and that would be slightly awkward, but it is what it is.
And G. Bush, I jumped the gun there. So that's obviously Ian Rappaport talking about the whole timing of that. We'll get to Foxworth in a minute. What do you think of that? Do you think he goes to training camp if he doesn't get traded by then?
I mean, if I was in his camp, there's 2 ways I can look at it. I could look at it from the Browns angle. I can also look at it from the Baker Mayfield angle. A lot of people are kind of building this up to be a doomsday type scenario. If Baker Mayfield decides to show up to camp and we already have a crowded quarterback room with Jacoby Brissett, Josh Dobbs, and obviously Deshaun Watson. For me, I just think that that's not the case. You know, when you come in and there's all those guys in the locker room or all those guys in the quarterback room, it's easy. He's not really going to be throwing the ball. He's going to be doing more rehab stuff in terms of off the field stuff. But even if he is on the field stretching and doing some stuff, it gives him visibility. It gives him an opportunity to see his body language. Teams can see if he's in shape or not. You'll be able to get out there, and obviously it gives you more leeway to talk to the press and say, "Hey, Baker, how you feeling? Everything's good, blah, blah, blah. What are your thoughts on the team?" He can say a bunch of positive things, and at the same time, he can answer questions and keep himself in the limelight a little bit. So if I was Baker, that's not a bad decision. Go and get your rehab, get your treatment. You're getting $18 million. That's guaranteed anyway. So at the end of the day, you just go in and try to show your positive attitude. For the Browns, it's a wait and see. And the Browns have to operate as if they're not pressed either. They'll say, hey, we got 4 quarterbacks. 3 of them are assigned. We got Baker. That's the 4th. He's rehabbing and doing some things, but, Baker's a good player. Now, obviously, teams are going to be like, come on, you got 3 quarterbacks. You want to move them away. We already know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you can just basically say, hey, look, he's here. If you guys have something that goes wrong, you got a quarterback that gets injured, you got somebody that you lost some faith in, You know, do you really want to use the 6th overall pick Carolina on another quarterback? Yeah, you got Baker here, and just wait to play the waiting game. So, I don't think it's a doomsday scenario.
All right, before we go to break, let's listen. This is Dominique Foxworth talking about teammates and just the way they're reacting to Baker Mayfield.
What Robbie Anderson did is rare. Like, it's so rare that you would see a player do something like that to a potential quarterback coming to his team, especially because they would work directly together. This isn't a linebacker saying, no, this is the receiver who's going to have to receive passes from him. And it suggests that maybe there's something more to issues with Baker Mayfield than just his play on the field. Because I can't imagine, given Robbie Anderson's history with quarterbacks, that he thinks Baker Mayfield is so far below the rest of those quarterbacks. He's better than most of the quarterbacks that Robbie Anderson has played with. For him not to want him to come there suggests that maybe there is something more than just his play. And for Robbie to do that publicly and not just like sources say to some sort of insider or just talking amongst his teammates, I mean, that really should catch Baker's attention. I'm not saying that Robbie is right or wrong, but at this point, it doesn't matter. It seems like the perception of Baker around the league is one that player or teams don't want him, and a lot of important players on those teams also don't want him. So it's something Baker needs to look in the mirror and address somehow.
And G. Bush, that's timing is everything with that as far as the Browns go and trading Baker Mayfield. You got to wait till he has some value.
And this one is actually easy to see coming. I don't know why people thought this was some groundbreaking, earth-shattering news. I go all the way back to the season, and I even talk a little bit about it. And I never understood this trope in the media. When you have Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, two of the most likable receivers around the league, receivers look up to those guys. Receivers meet with those guys, talk with those guys. When the narrative was going around that Baker Mayfield was somehow starstruck. He was so starstruck by OBJ, he was forcing him the ball and couldn't get it to him. I said, I've never heard that trope in my life. Never got to it. I've never heard that happen on any other situation or any other circumstances. That a quarterback who is a #1 overall pick is shy or he is intimidated so much by a receiver that he can't throw accurately. Can't do it. I just don't know. I don't know what's going on with me. And when you look at that situation and you look at other receivers, they're going to say, well, if you couldn't get the ball to OBJ, you couldn't get to Jarvis Landry. And Jarvis Landry is now on the market. Now, granted, he's still available in the market because he has a large target price. He wants $20 million, right? But when you have that happen to two receivers, you're not going to be jumping up and down to play with Baker Mayfield because it's a win. For you, it's a lose-lose. If you don't get the football, I don't know, maybe Robbie's not running around right routes. If you do get the football, now you're put in a position where if you're looking at it in terms of how many catches you're going to get, I mean, are you going to get a record-breaking year of some sort? So receivers aren't going to jump up and down and play with Baker. That's why I think it's best that he makes himself available and he says the right things. And when you do your press conference stuff and you do the podcast, that doesn't help you out. And that's why I think Seattle went in a different direction.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns, some of the off-season moves, and a look ahead. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from 92.3 The Fan. He's the host of the Barbershop, 8 to noon on Saturdays. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Andrew Berry in the offseason for the Browns.
I was just wondering, going into Andrew Berry's third offseason with the Browns, do you think this is his most important because of the acquisition of Deshaun Watson, that they're in a win-now mode, and because of the AFC being so loaded now that we are, like, once again, and we're in a win-now mode? And with the draft picks, the less draft picks that we have, because we don't have a first round, and we need D tackle help, wide receiver help, DN help, that this is his most important offseason because he's going to have to dig deep in his know-how because, you know, he is a good evaluator of talent. This will be his most important offseason of evaluating talent because we do need these depth pieces.
And as always, we appreciate all the voicemails. G. Bush, I think it's his most important offseason just because 3 years in, you got to see things start to take shape. And when you get a quarterback like he did, everything else seems to kind of fall in place. You have a little bit more margin for error when you feel you have an elite quarterback because that guy has the ball in his hands every time you have the ball.
Well, right now, the heavy lifting's done. I mean, you just got Denzel Ward. We just talked about that last segment. You just signed your top cornerback. You've done a good job in your secondary where you've gone and getting pieces in Greedy Williams and Newsome, who are really good corners, young corners that bolster the other side. You've also done a good job in figuring out what you're doing with your safety. So I think the secondary is solid. When you look at you've locked up Myles Garrett a couple of years ago. You got Nick Chubb done last year. You still got your receiver in Mari Cooper that is going to be your number one receiver this year. And you've already bolstered your kick game with Gene Grant. So you got to think about this. He's already done a lot of different things. The only thing he needs to do is find and get creative to find a defensive tackle. He needs to get some more help at a receiver. But the Browns are linked to Will Fuller of the Texans. Jarvis Landry seems to be still in the mix, and then Jadeveon Clowney is still in the mix as far as a guy they may bring back into the fold. But the number one position that they've already figured out is quarterback. It's a massive upgrade in quarterback. The guys that you see on the roster today, Donovan Peoples-Jones is automatically better. Schwartz is already better. Demetric Felton is better. And your running backs are better because you have a top 5 quarterback legitimately in the NFL. I say it again, people don't understand. When you get that guy, everybody steps up a notch. Those throws on 3rd and 7, those are on the money. You need to create some time and some plays to get out of the pocket a little bit and make something out of nothing. He has the ability to do that. So when we're looking into just regular stuff, yes, we still need to fill out the roster. But when you look from top up to top down, very little holes on this roster. And I think your job is to get the best available players and kind of fill in D tackle or wide receiver. And I think they could do that.
Yeah, all teams have holes, without question.
Yeah.
All right, some names we've talked about. Let's take a look. This is from Tony Grossi. He says he expects Clowney back, Jarvis Landry not to be back. Let's look at a Bleacher Report thing. Which available players can still be key contributors? They have Jadeveon Clowney, best fit, the Browns. Will Fuller, best fit, the Cleveland Browns. And then another wide receiver, Jarvis Landry, and Bleacher Report thinks the best fit for Landry is the Indianapolis Colts. So, G. Bush, if Andrew Berry is able to figure out a way that you get Jadeveon Clowney and Will Fuller on this roster? What do you think?
What you mean? What I think? I'm feeling great about my circumstances. Hey, now I can get a little cocky. Right now, I'm just being G. Bush and I'm just being mellow right now. But if you go ahead and bring two of them guys back, I'm real cocky going into the draft because now I feel like right now, even though the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, I feel the Browns are better, are more talented. The Ravens, I know what they got on offense. I know they got some guys coming back. But guess what? I feel the Browns got the best roster. If you look from top to bottom, if you're going to go ahead and give me Will Fuller, who's a guy who's a speed burner, a guy that could get deep, that already has some chemistry with Deshaun Watson, we'll take that. And Jadeveon Clowney had his best year as a pro, in my opinion, playing opposite of Myles Garrett. So if you could get those two guys together, man, look, I feel awesome about my chances of going through the AFC and getting to the championship game because for me, this is all about how can you get there. We've seen teams like the Bengals. If the Bengals got there last year, the Browns could get there this year. And I'm here to say the Tyreek Hill move for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm saying it right now, that is going to be more difficult to recover from, and to find another guy that can give you what Tyreek Hill gave you. That is a human cheat code. Tyreek Hill deep. Still running some of your jet sweeps underneath. And then you also had, Travis Kelce, who's unguardable and running in zones and different things. That gave them a 3-layer type offense. It's going to be very difficult to find that. And I like my Browns, especially if we can get those two guys.
Yeah, I'm with you with Tyreek Hill. I think that's going to have a much bigger impact on that offense than many people are. All right, before we go to break, this one's kind of interesting. Andrew Berry has kind of shown that he is a GM that is wise beyond his years. Well, that's probably because he has been practicing these salary cap maneuvers since the 5th grade. This comes from Britton Berry, that's his wife, and 10-year-old scribbles by the future GM, Andrew Berry. He's been working salary caps since he's a 10-year-old, and it's really interesting when you looked at it. You see scribbled out on pieces of paper, would do his homework early so he could get to work on this. Take a look. I mean, it's impressive. The young Andrew Berry was preparing himself at the age of 10 to be an NFL GM. That is really good stuff, G. Bush. I love it.
By the way, man, we got to give him his flowers for this. Do you see, back in the day, I still had that paper with all the lines on them. So I would draw my lines. It was that large, it was the blue one and the little dotted red one. I was all over the place. This man didn't even have no lines on his paper. He had everything lined up and ready to go. I'm like, man, this looks great. I'll tell you what, sometimes you know that you're built for certain things when not saying I'm as good as a radio host that Andrew Berry is at crunching numbers and putting rosters together, but I used to have a Fisher Price cassette doing shows, just talking to myself. People thought, hey man, this kid, hey, you might want to talk to him, get him some friends. But I'll tell you about Andrew Berry and some of the moves that he's made. He makes moves, and the Browns make moves that we could only dream of in the past. In the past, we would always say, "Why aren't the Browns in a move for anybody else? Why do we only get special teams players in free agency?" The Cleveland Browns make the moves that the people that's sitting at home now dream of. Moving up in the second round and get guys, getting JOK after he slid down and kept going down in the second round, being able to identify and go get Newsome when you already had Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams, right? He's done all these moves. He's continued to do, and I think he's not done yet. He's one of the most savvy, aggressive guys that the Browns have had in the front office in a very long time, and I believe that the Browns roster right now, they talked about it last year, right now, it's a top 1, 2, 3 roster in the league. And if we can get a couple more pieces, watch out.
All right, G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail and Truth and Reason about Baker's contract. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from 92.3 The Fan. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Baker Mayfield's contract.
Hey, this is Jerry. I've got a wild one for you. Do you think Baker Mayfield could adjust his contract to say $9 million this coming year and then maybe $12 million next year and have 18 guaranteed, and then maybe trade him along with another player like Kareem Hunt for draft choices? Hey, thanks. I told you it was a wild one.
As always, we appreciate all the voicemails. G. Bush, he's only under contract for 1 year, so it would include an extension, and I don't want to trade Kareem Hunt. So, again, you're trying to get creative, but I don't think that's the way you go.
No, you can't get that off. when you're looking at that, they're using that in 1 year circumstances, and when you look at it, you have to understand that that's a 1 year deal. It's a 1 year situation. So you need to be able to pay the $18 million, and stretching it out over a 2 year period. That seems like a basketball move where you're amnestying somebody or you buy somebody out. I think the way the salary cap works is that Andrew Berry is going to have to pay him $18 million. He has to pay the money. And if you look at it from another standpoint, like you said, I don't want to trade Kareem Hunt. I think the Browns are in a good enough position right now. They had a couple third-round picks. They got a couple late-round picks as well. If they need that ammunition to move up maybe in the second round to go get somebody that fell down a little bit. But for me, in terms of packaging Baker Mayfield, we're going to have to come to the realization is, hey, we're either going to have to bite the bullet on half of that salary. We can't kick the can down the road anymore. And I think for the best people involved, I think it's best that they get it done. You just don't want it to hang over. I do radio, so I can prognosticate all day about Baker Mayfield. But for a lot of people in the locker room, maybe they don't want to hear about it, or maybe you want to just a clean, fresh start to continue on and talk about the stuff that's happening on the field. So I like the idea. I like to get creative with the salary cap too. But I think the Browns and the way the rules work is they have to either pay him, somebody else is going to have to pay him, and they can't extend that down the road on a 5th or 6th year or 7th year type basis.
All right, so the question becomes, what happened with Baker Mayfield? Dan Orlovsky from ESPN's Get Up, a guy that's defended him, here's his thoughts.
Baker Mayfield's issue is not what people in the NFL, both player or coaches, think of him. Baker Mayfield's issue is that he lost the chip on his shoulder. He lost that I'm a walk-on attitude and I'm going to take everything from everybody else because I'm going to work for it. And he had that little bit of a, entitled, I was the #1 draft pick type of mindset for a few moments. Greeny, this is a guy that 2 years ago led the Browns with a bottom 10 defense into the playoffs and had a top 10 QBR. I mean, it is the perfect scenario for a general manager in the NFL to buy low and look brilliant. Everybody thinks Baker Mayfield can't play. Everybody thinks that Baker Mayfield stinks. If Baker Mayfield goes back to that mindset that I'm a walk-on and I'm going to go win the Heisman and then I'm going to go earn to be the #1 job and in 2020 I'm going to go 11-5, then you got a starting quarterback in the NFL. And the only guy in this draft that I think is more talented than Baker Mayfield if he reaches his heights is Malik Willis from Liberty.
G. Bush, I think there's a lot of truth to what Orlovsky said. I don't know about losing his edge. I think other than Willis, nobody in that draft, if you're telling me pick one of these guys that's your quarterback, it's probably going to be Mayfield other than Malik Willis.
When you talk about on the draft tip, I totally agree. I think Baker Mayfield has raw talent that is better than Pickett. I think he's better than the kid from Cincinnati. I think he's better than a lot of these quarterbacks in this draft. But I couldn't disagree more with Dan Orlovsky. The thing that has hurt Baker Mayfield throughout this whole situation is that proverbial chip on his shoulder. Let me explain. Let's go deep into this. When you talk about Baker Mayfield and you're talking about a quarterback, when you're at the highest and high levels, those Jedi mind tricks might work in high school. That chip on your shoulder might work in college. But when you get to the highest level and everybody fast, everybody's putting in the work, everybody is doing the next level stuff to be successful, chips don't work. You could think people have doubted you your whole life, but you could get your tail kicked between the lines. Hey, I thought I should have went to a bigger school. That don't help me out when you're trying to get off a double team block. It does nothing for you. It's about execution, it's about preparation, and it's about doing the things, the small things, not thinking that people's trying to doubt you, because if people's trying to doubt you, that don't help your accuracy. You could have the biggest ship in the world, and you can say, man, these guys don't even understand what I had to go to get there, and the defensive backs don't care either. They'll just jump right in front of these routes and take it to the house. You can't keep falling back on that chip on your shoulder stuff, because at the end of the day, it's about what you do in between them white lines. It don't matter what I say. It don't matter what you say, respectively. It don't matter what the fans say. It's all about what happens in your race, your religion, your economic background, your family makeup has nothing to do with whether or not you can get beat on Sunday or Saturdays. That's what makes football the best sport ever, because it don't matter what you come with. It doesn't matter. You can still get beat. And that's what makes it great. And that's what makes it great theater. And that's why Americans love it. It don't matter about the tropes. Tropes don't get you no wins.
All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This, our Baker Mayfield supporter, Mr. Sooner Mayfield, talking about Baker and kind of where he sits.
Yeah, this is Mr. Sooner Mayfield checking in, I guess you could say anyway. I've been thinking about something, and that is a totally new slant on Baker Mayfield. Love him or hate him, you're not going to change him. Let me tell you why. He belongs to a very elite group of people that I know about myself called contrarians. We do not follow people all the time. We're leaders. We have people tell us, now this is the way it's supposed to be done, and immediately inside our brain something kicks in and says, well, can't we do it this way? And we try to work smarter, not harder, all right? But the one that Baker reminds me of is Jim McMahon of the 85 Chicago Bears. Jim was brash. He was outspoken. You knew where he stood. He played with so many injuries, I believe it was unbelievable. Thanks for putting me on. Appreciate it. Bye.
All right. As always, we appreciate the voicemails. I don't know that you want a contrarian leading your football team is the only thing. That's my reaction to that.
Contrarians might work in another line of business. Contrarians make good politicians. Contrarians make good entertainers. Contrarians make good think tank guys, right? Those guys that go around they're consultants. They go into your company and say, hey, what have you guys been doing for the last 20 years? Well, it hasn't got you to the top. Here's my idea, thinking outside the box of how to get you where you need to go. Those guys make a bunch of money consulting. If it works, it doesn't really count. You push it off on research and development and it works well, right? But when you talk about leading 30, 40, 50 grown men who don't have the shelf life that quarterbacks have, contrarians don't get it done. There's certain things that you need to do in football to be successful. One of those things is watching film. One of those things is being very precise. One of those things is working as a unit cohesively to get a common goal accomplished. Contrarians don't really work well with that, right? We all know that the world is, round. Some contrarians like it's flat. I can respect you because everyone has an opinion, but let's keep it real. That does nothing. Contrarians and you telling me the world's flat doesn't help me get to where I need to go. Baker Mayfield is a polarizing, very entertaining person. And I've always said, if he wants to go into the booth, there's nobody can stop him. Tony Romo, watch out. Put him on College Game Day. He's wildly entertaining. Even his podcast was entertaining. That's an entertainment. that doesn't really necessarily work and translate to the football field. He has talent, but contrarian, I don't think is going to get you to the Super Bowl.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we turn our attention to the draft. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush, 92.3 The Fan, host of the Barbershop. 8 until noon on Saturdays. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the draft.
Why not take a kicker in the third or fourth round? Is there any more important player possibly on the team other than the quarterback?
All right. As always, we appreciate the voicemails. G. Bush, I would not take a kicker that high. There have been some that have been taken in the second round. They're out of the league in a couple of years. Those are too valuable. You have too many things that you need. And kickers just aren't evaluated. Nobody's been able to evaluate kickers, pretty precisely, I guess.
Oh, no, we can't even get – I mean, the Browns, you can't even evaluate the quarterback. A lot of teams are just working on that. What do you mean? No, I'm not taking a kicker that high. There's kickers that get drafted, undrafted, or walk-ons, or guys that get picked up off the streets that are better than guys that have been in the second round. I remember back in the day, Sebastian Janikowski was the big guy, the guy, I think he came out of Florida State. Mm-hmm. And people were talking about why – you just draft him as a kicker. I always tell people like this, man. If you plan on kicking field goals in the NFL for a living, and your team is counting on field goals to be productive, get ready to be terrible. Because kicking field goals when you should be getting 7 is really going to hurt your pockets, man. You're not going to win a lot of games if you're kicking 3 and somebody else is going down to get 7. You can get a kicker late round. And by the way, the Browns actually just did this. I think they did draft the kicker in the 5th round. Cyber, I believe, was a 5th round pick.
Zane Gonzalez was 6th or 7th. They just haven't. Neither of them worked out. Yeah, they need to get a kicker, but I wouldn't draft them. Bring in 60 of them if you need to, as undrafted free agents. Have them kick all day, but don't waste a high pick on them. All right, let's take a look at this. This is an interesting mock draft. Ryan Wilson, CBS Sports. We'll take a look at the first 3 picks for the Browns. So 44, they have Jahan Dotson, wide receiver from Penn State. You see George Pickens available a couple picks later as well. Then they go Perion Winfrey, defensive tackle from Oklahoma at 78. Then at 99, that compensatory third-round pick, they go edge rusher Sam Williams from Ole Miss. So, G. Bush, Dotson, Winfrey, Williams. What do you think of those? I'm in. If those 3 are available, I kind of like what the Browns have done adding those. Adding that talent, I think, would be a big step up.
Oh no, that'd be huge. Now, some people will complain to you and say, I like Dotson, or I don't like Dotson as much as I like Pickens. But you can't argue with Dotson's production. Go back to 2020 in the COVID year, and he pretty much sank the whole defensive backs draft stock when he went against Ohio State. I mean, he is productive. He can go up and high point the football. He may not have the elite size or the elite speed that Pickens may have, but he doesn't have the injury, rap sheet that Pickens has as well. So I like Dotson. I think he's a guy who is. He reminds me of all the other Penn State guys. Allen Robinson, he kind of reminds me of a little bit too. So I have no problem with that. Can catch the football. I think it'd be a great a great acquisition in addition to the team. We talked about Winfrey. We talked about him from Oklahoma last time I was on. I really like him because he gives you a little more wiggle. He gives you a little more pass rush ability than your average defensive tackle. And I think I've always said this, to really truly unlock. People always want to play with 4. Everybody want to get pressure with 4. Let's drop and play 7 behind them. To do that, yes, you need to get good rush ends, and the Browns do have Jadeveon Clowney. If he can get him back, you do have Myles Garrett. But to truly unlock that rushing with 4, you need a defensive tackle that can push the pocket, has some pass rush ability, as well as being able to be big enough to stop the run. And then you could really have something dangerous. I like him as well. And then the edge rusher from Ole Miss, I like that as well. If you can get an edge rusher and he kind of mix and match with these guys that you brought in free agency, I think that they would hit all 3 areas or levels that they really need: edge rusher, defensive tackle, and receiver with that mock draft. I wouldn't have any problems if they went ahead and pulled the trigger on all 3 of those moves.
G. Bush, as always, man, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, G. Bush.
No problem. Talk to you later, man.
All right, G. Bush, make sure you listen to him. 92.3 The Fan, 8 until noon on Saturdays. He is the host of The Barbershop. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily will join us. We're talking Jakeem Grant when Sports4CLE returns. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Time to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns' new return threat.
Hello, this is Tony Frost, Toledo, Ohio. Just want everyone to know, and just remember you heard it here first, that we have our own cheetah, Jakeem Grant. He's our cheetah now. Super fast and has great hands and can jump. Let's not fall asleep on the cheetah, Jakeem Grant. The Browns cheetah, the Dog Pound cheetah now. All right, have a good day.
All right, as always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily. And Eddie, that's kind of a reference to Tyreek Hill, nicknamed the Cheetah because of his speed. There are some similarities, and I think Grant is a nice fit with the Browns, with what they're looking and going to ask him to do.
Yeah, he's a great fit for the Browns, but he is no cheetah. He is no Tyreek Hill by any stretch of the imagination. I like that dude's confidence, though. Grant could be used in a Hill-like role, but not as productive, even with the quarterback of Deshaun Watson's caliber. He's mainly coming in for kick returning duties, which he is an expert at. that's something the Browns have been lacking for years. They finally have it with him. Yeah, sure, he's going to be able to be used for those short dump-off passes and yards after the catch and maybe some end-around sweeps or something, but he is no Tyreek Hill.
Not even if you squint a lot, huh?
Nope, not even then.
All right. Let's take a look at some defensive tackle solutions. And Eddie, you wrote an article about this. One of the things that you said would be the solution for defensive tackle, an area that the Browns obviously need to upgrade, is the NFL draft. Take us through some guys that you think make sense there.
Yeah, so we talked about Travis Jones last time I was on. I like him a lot for out of UConn. Any one of these three that I mentioned, though, are changeable. Perrion Winfrey, someone just had in the mock draft in the last segment where he was going to 78. If he falls to 78, I'll be ecstatic and I'll be extremely happy for a while. Devontae Wyatt's another guy that they can bring in. Either one of those guys, you can't go wrong if they choose to go, defensive tackle in the second round. Any one of those. I like Jones just a little bit more, but I would love if Winfrey came to us, whether at 44 or 78 somehow.
Yeah, I just finally got to see Jones, some video of him, and he's a big guy that can move. So I'm with you as far as Travis Jones goes. The second thing you say of the four solutions is a reunion. So who are you thinking when you say that?
So we had Sheldon Richardson, Larry Ogunjobi. Ogunjobi was obviously drafted by us a few years ago in 2017. In the third round, Sheldon Richardson came over in free agency. And then where it came down to him is he wanted some money, some more money. The Browns waited till after the draft, and there was only a little bit left to offer. So he was a little bit offended by that. I think a year apart could do either of these guys pretty good. Ogunjobi just had a career high in sacks with 7 this year for Cincinnati. Unfortunately, got hurt in the opening playoff game for them, so he did not make the Super Bowl run. But he was a contributing factor to that. If he came back, he's not like oh my God, he's a great fit and he's the solution here, but he is part of the solution, I think. And so is Sheldon Richardson. If you can get them both back on some veteran deals, Ogunjobi was set to get paid recently by the Bears. That fell through because it was failed physical. So I think bringing one of those guys back, especially Ogunjobi, who has grown up even with the Browns and last year with the Bengals, I think either one of those would be a good option.
All right, then we got a couple of free agents as the third and fourth. So the first one is Eddie Goldman. What do you like about him? What do you see from Goldman?
Goldman, I think he's a younger guy. A lot of these guys are like in their 30s. He's about 28 or so. He's a big guy that can move as well. He did opt out during the 2020 season because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's a thing. But he is someone who is looking for a change of scenery. And a lot of times we see in the NFL, a change of scenery for players and teams, is oftentimes a good thing. Hopefully he can cash in on that. I don't know what his contract situation will be like. That can be for Andrew Berry to figure out. I saw you guys talking about that he's been doing that since the 5th grade. He can do all that. But he's a guy that he played alongside number one on this list, Akeem Hicks, and he would get to play alongside Myles Garrett, potentially Jadeveon Clowney again. I think a change of scenery and upgrade of teammates would be a lot of good for him.
Yeah, and you mentioned Hicks. What do you like about him? What does Hicks bring?
I like his veteran presence a lot. He's been a disruptive terror for the Bears for years. The past couple of years, he's struggled with injury, so that's something that we should keep an eye on if he is going to do that. And the Browns have had interest in him. He's one of those guys that, like I said, he's a veteran. They can teach the young guys a thing or two and also do his own thing. And he's good at stopping the run, something that the Browns desperately need and have needed for the past couple of seasons.
So earlier today, it was announced the Browns have agreed to a 5-year contract extension, and it's a record setter with Denzel Ward. 5 years, $100.5 million, $71.25 guaranteed. You wrote an article on why the Browns should do that. Here is Denzel Ward's reaction to it. Lost for words, blessed, wants to thank ownership, Andrew Berry, Stefanski, the rest of the Browns organization, for keeping a hometown kid home and allowing him to represent the organization and the city that he is from. So all good stuff as the Browns extend one of their core players, and it's just a really good story. And your reaction to the signing of Denzel Ward to that big extension?
I love it. I was hoping it would come before training camp, and it even came before their offseason workouts that are scheduled for tomorrow. I can't be more happy about it. He is one of the better cornerbacks in the league. I think he's one of the elite ones in the league. And now we have the quarterback position wrapped up for years to come, defensive end position wrapped up for years to come, and now we have cornerback. Those are three key pieces to winning in the NFL. And Denzel Ward makes a lot of sense. And I just wrote last week the reasons why they should not trade him. There was some talk on Twitter that, hey, we should trade him for this, trade him for that. Well, you shouldn't do that because the number one reason was, you pay good players. And they obviously went out and did that, a record-setting deal, and good for him. The story is fantastic, like you said. Another thing is what I wrote is the fact that the competition that they will be facing from the quarterback and wide receiver positions in their division alone and in the AFC as a whole. So that's a good combo to have. And he came off a pretty good season last year. And now that he's paid, I think he's going to keep going on that.
Yep, highest paid cornerback in the league, and Jalen Ramsey, who was, actually congratulated him on Twitter as well. Browns also made some roster moves, none of them earth-shattering, but pieces to add depth in those kind of guys. They re-signed Sheldon Day. They signed defensive end Stephen Weatherly, and then Jamarcus Bradley and Michael Dunn, two young guys they signed exclusive rights tenders to, which means anybody who offers them a contract, they can match them and those kind of things. Again, Day is an intriguing guy just because they're looking for defensive tackles. That's a guy who could end up being part of that rotation.
Yeah, he absolutely could, and he comes in relatively cheap. And I don't care what any owners or GMs spend money-wise. That's not my money. But from a fan's perspective, we want cheaper deals with better players, and that obviously doesn't work out all the time. But I think Sheldon Day is a guy who can step in and fill in some roles. He might not be like a two-down defender. He might come in just a rotational piece, but you need depth in the NFL to win. I'm not sure about Weatherly. I don't know much about him. I have to read up on him later tonight. And then Jamarcus Bradley, he's been here before. Dunn, I believe, has been here before, so they know the system. They're probably not going to be anyone that makes the roster. They might be a practice squad guys, but you have to have depth in the NFL. You have to have 53 men on the roster and 90 going into training camp. So I think these are solid moves. It fills the roster a little bit, but not enough where it's like, all right, the Browns are done now, because the Browns have a ton more to do, and now just wait and see when they do it.
Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we turn our attention to the wide receiver position, another area the Browns likely to upgrade in upcoming free agency and the draft. Sports4CLE talking wide receivers. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns football. Again, the Browns have signed a 5-year, $100.5 million contract extension for Denzel Ward. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about a question with a wide receiver that the Browns could target later in the draft.
Hi, Dave. Longtime Browns fan. Love your show. Wanted your opinion on a wide receiver from Kentucky, Wan'Dale Robinson. Thanks for your time. Have a good season.
All right, as always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. Eddie, what do you think? Robinson from Kentucky, your thoughts on him?
I've only looked into Robinson a little bit ahead of the draft. Everything I've seen, though, there's been a lot of positives. There's been a bunch of teams that have, talked with him and interviewed him, and he'd be a good fit. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about him, but he's one of those guys I think later in the draft, like third, fourth, if he falls to it, fifth somehow, would be one of those pieces that what really wows a team. Like, oh wow, I didn't think he would fall this far. I didn't think he would ever get to us. Things like that. I'll do some more research on him, maybe do a little write up on him as well. But I've seen his name linked to it could be a late round steal for some teams.
Yeah, and what we have heard about him is it's a guy that they had run the football earlier in his career. They kind of expanded his role more as a pass catcher, and he looks to be productive in that role. So kind of a guy who, when given the opportunity, has taken advantage of it. Let's turn our attention to a guy that, if he's there at 44, the Browns, I'm sure will think about. That would be a wide receiver from Western Michigan, Sky Moore. I know you wrote an article about it. Take us through Sky Moore, what you like about him, and how you think he may fit with the Browns.
Oh, man, what's not to like about Sky Moore? The kid is an absolute stud. I think that's going to translate well in the NFL. He is a guy that has great separation at the line of scrimmage. He has great speed, great athleticism. If the team decides to, play man coverage and press on him, he can beat the defender quickly and just burn past him, or he can use that to his advantage and go inside on a short slant route and take that preferably to the end zone, but, a ways down the field. And then he also has the athleticism where a guy like Deshaun Watson can get him the ball and, he can go up and get some jump balls, and he can, like I said, burn some defenders, and Deshaun Watson will definitely get him the ball. And I think he would be a fantastic fit here. I would love to take him at 44 if he is available. I've seen some talk that maybe the Packers might look at him in the first round, since they have 2 first-rounders this year. Haven't had a wide receiver drafted in who knows how long. But I think he would be a great fit for this team. He'd be a great number 3 or number 4 piece, depending. And, he's just the cat there. Yes, she wanted to join in.
Yeah.
So, but I think he'd be a fantastic addition to this team, and the speed, the athleticism.
Cats and dogs, she wants to be part of the Dog Pound Daily family. That's all right. We're okay with it. We welcome all. All are welcome in Sports4CLE. The other thing, we talked to his coach, Tim Lester, at Western Michigan a little bit earlier, and he said the guy was constantly asking him, what can I do to get better? And that's the type of thing that you want to hear, and he's going to be a sponge from some of the veterans like Amari Cooper.
Under Amari Cooper, he will learn a ton if he is indeed drafted here. No matter where he goes, whatever veteran receiver, I think he is going to be a sponge like that. And a lot of guys don't do that. Like, hey, how can I get better? A lot of guys think, all right, I'm already in the draft pool. I'm going to get drafted first, second, third round, maybe, later rounds, whatever. And it's just like, all right, I'm cool with that. Wherever I go, I'll work hard. But here's a kid that wants to get better. And, hey, how can I get better? And getting advice from Amari Cooper, who's one of the league's best receivers. And then also, even getting some help from David Njoku, who's a tight end, and Deshaun Watson, who has played with, a bunch of wide receivers, especially DeAndre Hopkins. I think this kid would be fantastic with us, and that attitude is perfect.
All right, before we let you go, one trade for every team that makes sense, and this is in reference to the NFL draft. This is from Bleacher Report. For the Browns, they have the Browns trading Baker Mayfield to the Seahawks for a 2022 fourth-round pick, 109 overall. And you see, again, if the Browns can find a way to get a pick, not have to take on any of the salary or even a little bit of the salary, it probably makes sense. I mean, at this point in time, just Baker Mayfield didn't work out. If you can get something for him, points to Andrew Berry in the front office.
Absolutely. And that trade right there would be a fantastic thing. No matter if it's the Seahawks or if it's the Panthers or whoever it is, just getting a pick for him and hopefully not having to eat any of that contract. I don't see that as a scenario. I think there has to be a little bit of that, and the team that inherits him or trades for him will inherit the rest. But that, like you said, if we can get a pick and have minimal damage to the cap hit of the $18 million, that would be fantastic. Especially if that pick right there happens, that trade at 109, then the Browns would have $78 99, and 109. That's a good a little run to have there.
Yeah, and there's plenty of defensive tackles, wide receivers, and edge rushers in that mix that the Browns have already been kind of targeting and looking. So it may get you another guy that slides a little bit in the draft as well. Eddie McDonald, Dawg Pound Daily. Great stuff as always, Eddie. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Eddie McDonald, make sure you read him. Dawg Pound Daily, covering the Browns. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports 4 CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Scheduled guests, Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter from Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Casey Kinnaman from Dawg Pound Daily. That's tomorrow at 4, Sports 4 CLE. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.